Michelle, I appreciate the intro and thank everybody for coming today. There's a lot to cover, so I may go fast on some of it, but don't worry about that because I'll give you an opportunity to have access to all this information after the presentation. Uh, so anyway, we're going to talk about power tools. That's not the kind you plug in or the battery operated. This is software and technology. So basically, we're going to talk about if I can get my slide, there we go. We're going to talk about picking the right technology because we all work from home. We want to make sure we pick the right tools to fit the way we work. We work differently now, so there's a lot to consider. We're very honestly, we're very blessed to have so much technology. It's so easy to use and quite frankly, pretty affordable. So basically anything I discussed today, these are products that I like and use and recommend. It's not necessarily promising you they'll work great for you. It depends on how you use the software. So all the software manufacturers we'll talk about have great support, their own warranties and disclaimers, training, all those things that we need to be successful. There we go. Okay, so the agenda, I'm going to start out talking about a technology perspective and why I'm going to talk about this. I've been involved in technology since the 70s. So I've seen everything from before we had a computer at our desktop all the way through what you see now where everything's at our fingertips on our cell phones. So we'll talk about a little bit about how we work, the platforms we can use to run our businesses, and then we'll end it up with the power tools, the actual apps that we use to perform our various functions. So first of all, let's talk about technology perspective. You may get a little humor with these pictures here, but I remember this stuff. That's scary. I did have an electric calculator. I was in the accounting profession and we didn't have computers, but we had desktop calculators that would foot and crossfoot 52 columns on a green column pad. Believe it or not, that's how far I go back. So we had no internet, we had no desktop, we had no mail, no email, but we used snail mail. We stuck a stamp on it, stuck it in the mail. No Google, we had the encyclopedia, a few other options, but social media didn't exist. We did things the old-fashioned way. We handed business cards, we met people, we had lunch, we developed relationships that way. We still do that, but we didn't have those things back then. So we didn't have mobile phones, we had pay phones. I remember my software business was based in Dallas. And when I was going to meet with a client, if I wanted to talk to him before the meeting, like maybe to get directions, I had to find a payphone. Or if I had to follow up with somebody was trying to reach me, we did have a pager. So mass marketing, we didn't have that. Well, we have direct mail and fax blast. Some of you probably don't know what fax blast are, but fax blast we use fax software to send a document, an image, a page or two. And I remember being up at my office on a Sunday afternoon, sending out a blast to remind people about a class I was conducting, or maybe there was a seminar. So we do things a lot different now with basically a touch of the finger. So personal computing, some of you know this, some of you don't. I remember my first desktop computer, I paid about $6,000. It was dual floppy, no hard drive. Green screen, ugly, big, clunky. First portable computer was Osborne. I think later compact computer had something similar, had a bigger screen. No hard drive, floppy drives. And then in 1985, that's an early picture of Bill Gates. We're actually about the same age, but anyway, they created Microsoft Windows to run our desktop computers. So how we've adapted or what we did to adapt technology back then, computers were large, they're very expensive. Software, you had to purchase it up front. You didn't pay a monthly fee like we do now. So quite a bit different. Our projects, what we did, we implemented accounting ERP systems. And when we implemented those, the customer would buy all the software up front, sometimes over $100,000. And then we'd pay for training and support done in a classroom style. So we didn't have the internet to train our clients. So what we would have is features in software. We would turn on and turn off options where we couldn't fit the needs of the client. We had to customize. So that required programming. Well, nowadays we don't have to do that. So remote access is pretty much, you just didn't see it. Remote access was available in some situations, but it wasn't readily available like we have now. You wouldn't even begin to imagine doing something like we're doing today back, say, 20, 25 years ago. So let's talk a bit about how we work. And I think that's what's so cool about this is that how we work now, basically, you summed it up in one statement. We work and collaborate. We work and collaborate together anywhere, anytime, on any device, our cell phone, a tablet, a laptop, and we want to be secure and connected anytime we choose. So we want to have that confidence we're secure. And I know that's been a big issue with people, especially when it comes to storing information in the cloud. So some of you probably know this, but I'll just kind of give an overview. I still get questions about what is cloud computing. Well, everything we're doing now is through the cloud. So basically the cloud is your software platforms. We'll talk about that in a minute. The applications, the actually tools we use, the data. So everything is stored in the cloud, and we access that through the devices that we have. So your cell phone, your tablet, your PC. So basically anything's in the cloud. We don't have to worry about being local. We can access it, share it, collaborate, discuss it. So that's a concept. Hopefully that helped some of you. So we're going to have a little poll question. Poll question number one. We'll have 5 of these throughout the presentation. So Michelle. So what is important to you? Connecting, collaborating with customers and team members? All of the above? I thought that would be, that'd be the result of it. Okay, all the above gets it. If we were in a room together, like we did usually do the BBB lunch and learns, we would be able to have a little bit of conversation here. I wish we could have that, but we can do that through the chat. And also too, I'll give you a chance to email your questions. So if you have a question you want to ask me, at the end, you'll have a chance to send me an email. And I'll try to respond to all those. Okay. Okay. So we're going to talk about the platform. So what is a platform? So you're probably running your business on one of these platforms, either the Google platform or Microsoft. So Google Workspace, this the new, that's what they call the Google, what used to be G Suite. Google Workspace is all these apps here. I'm sure you're familiar with some of these. There's much more, but typically Gmail, Calendar, Docs, Sheets. Google Docs is equivalent to Microsoft Word. Sheets is equivalent to Excel, and Slides is equivalent to PowerPoint. So to make these apps in this platform work for you to fit your specific needs, we can add functionality. We can turn a particular app or a couple of apps in the platform into a full suite of industry-specific needs. We'll cover some more about that in a bit, but there's over 3 million apps in the Google Workspace, quite a few to choose from. The challenge is picking the right ones because there's so many that do similar functions. So then on the Microsoft side, we have Microsoft 365. It used to be called Office 365. So everybody's familiar, I'm sure, with Word, Excel, PowerPoint. If you're not familiar with Access, you can create databases. Publisher, it's been around for a long time. You can create brochures and pamphlets. And there's Teams, that's something new, that's for collaboration. We'll talk about that. And then Outlook, everybody knows Outlook. You can track your email and your calendar in that environment. So on the Microsoft side, to add functions and features to the platform, they've got 7,500 applications available, quite a bit less than Google. We'll try to touch on that a little bit here. So basically, most of these apps are more like entire business solutions. They add a great deal of functionality, like an entire accounting suite or CRM, a customer resource management system, a medical system. So it would use the platform that Microsoft has and add all these functionalities. So I did, and we could probably add a lot more to this, but what I did, I just kind of took some of the major considerations, the pros and cons. Not that a con is bad, but I put a gold star beside the one where it kind of leaned toward one side or the other. So starting with sharing data, Google has Google Drive. It's basically a hard drive in the sky. It's where all of your data, pictures, data, spreadsheets, whatever it is you're sharing with others, you can share with one or many. On the Microsoft side, they have OneNote. So because a lot of people consider Google Drive much easier to share data, we'll put the gold star on that side. The next category I've got is third-party applications. So we have Google Workspace that we covered a minute ago, and then Microsoft App Source. So I put the gold star there strictly because the sheer number of apps available. And most of these, not necessarily highly tested, but if they're on the marketplace, they probably got enough users. You can get the information to tell if they're really right for you. Next one is application features. Well, because we're all familiar with Word and Excel and PowerPoint, and they've been out much longer, they're oftentimes much more feature rich, especially like, I like PowerPoint when I'm doing a really important presentation like this. So then on the Google side, we have less features, but it fits most of our needs. So let me talk a bit about the PowerPoint statement I made. I created this presentation today on Google Slides because I was working from a few different computers, and it was real easy just to go in and add content. When I got ready to convert it to this presentation, I just simply opened the file up in PowerPoint, and I could add some functionality, a little bit better presentation, more options in the way the graphs look or the slides look. So the next category is cost of ownership. Cost of ownership is a biggie. So basically you can use the Google platform just by opening up a free Gmail account. It gives you access to all the tools. And if you're a small business or a growing business, there are business options. I happen to use the small business version that I think I pay a whole $12 a month for, but it does give a little more robust feature sets. But on the Microsoft side, I call it planned obsolescence. Used to, you'd buy the apps or the suite, you'd pay for it one time, you use it for several years. Well, Microsoft has what I call planned obsolescence. Kind of a negative term, but really what it does, it forces you to get upgrades every year to continue using. So that $99 a year you pay is to give you their latest versions. Whereas on the Google side, they're updated constantly, adding new features constantly. Now, security, this is up for debate so the people that are technical, they might not totally agree, but I look at Microsoft has a history of being vulnerable. When they come out with new versions or releases, they're either, they were buggy, that's not so much a problem, but just people could access or hack email accounts very easily. But on the Google side, basically overall it's more secure. That is up for debate. That's my opinion. The gold star goes to Google on that one. So advanced features or advanced options. On the Google side, most users can turn on and turn off and control the way the platform works. On the Microsoft side, what happens is you have typically larger environments use it. There's more robust features and functionality to handle large data sets, large number of users, large volumes of data. So you might give the gold star to Microsoft on that side if you're a larger organization. That's not to say small businesses wouldn't use it. So number of users, I mentioned about the number of apps. Look at the number of users on the Google side. We have 2 billion users worldwide. 6 million are paying. So a lot of people are using that free software, right? So I think most of us, we see that most of us are getting by just fine. But on the Microsoft side, there's 200 million users. That's actually a lot of users. But when you look at Google, there's it just has a more worldwide acceptance. So we're going to have another poll question here. Poll question number 2. So which of the platforms are you using? Google Workplace or Microsoft? Maybe both. interesting. Looks like it's becoming, well, Microsoft kind of gets the lead. A lot of people are using some apps and others, some of each. And that's kind of me too, but I'm typically a Google person. So I would venture to say people are using Microsoft quite a bit because of Word and Excel. It may be PowerPoint, but I say Word and Excel because you've used it for years, you know it. You probably don't necessarily use all the features either, I would bet. Okay, good. Great input. Kind of surprised, actually. Oops, all right. All right, so now we're going to talk about power tools. And this is, again, not the kind you plug in or the battery operated. This is actually software. So I'm going to define it for you. Power tools, application software, or app for short, is basically any program that you use as an end user to do your work. And that's a pretty broad term, do your work. There's a lot that goes into that, but examples would be word processing, spreadsheets, accounting, your web browser is an app, your email client, Gmail or Outlook, any special productivity application, Zoom. We're using Zoom today. That's an app. So let's talk about selection criteria. And you could really add to that list, this list I've got here. There's so many things to look at when you're getting the right software. I think what's bad, and I've asked this question of people, if you opened up your phone right now and looked at all the apps on your phone, you probably, I bet you don't use 10% of them, I'd venture to say. I know I don't. So, we put apps on our phone. We just kind of play around with them. Don't really think about why we're doing it. They end up getting our information about us. When it's free, a lot of times that's what they're doing. They're giving you access so they can get information about you. So I think it's good to consider the apps you're choosing, and it's okay to delete or uninstall these apps. I think it's good to do every once in a while. So basically, you start out looking at the platform you're running on, pick the apps that fit what you need and ones that work together. And that means a lot. That means things like maybe you don't want to enter a customer name in more than one place, or you want a certain, like the way you do your scheduling in your calendar to work with your email as an example. Or maybe there's a third-party product that works really well with your calendar. You want to make sure you pick the right one there. So training and support, this is huge. This is actually a pet peeve of mine. Back when I was in technology, and really it seemed like up until the last 3 or 4 years, support is just hard to get. I don't know if you've gotten stuck in something, maybe even it's an app you're paying for. Trying to get support is a challenge. Even especially during this pandemic, what's happened is you're running to a situation and you make a phone call. Used to, you could get somebody on the line, maybe you had a way to get a call back, but now you got to email them and hope you get an answer today. So if you're in a pinch, you're trying to get a project done, that's not a good answer. But unfortunately, that's kind of the case right now, because I found, like a lot of us now, we're working from home. So a lot of these larger software companies, they've got their support team, their training team working from home. So you get these dispatch of calls that come in, or email or support request, and you're hoping you get somebody that responds timely. But fortunately, the better software programs, they have user groups, so you can go online and get your own answers. QuickBooks is great for that if you use that for your accounting. And then you can go to YouTube, and a lot of these programs, they have YouTube videos that help you learn their software. And a lot of times a third party or somebody not associated with the company has put together a really good training video for free. So it's good to know who uses the apps. I think it's good to look at reviews. I don't buy anything. I don't put anything on my phone hardly, or my computer, unless I look at reviews. What are other people saying? I think we all have gotten in the habit of that, but looking at what others say is huge. So look at case studies if they're available. A lot of times they'll give you, in a more robust software program, they might give you a case study on how a particular business used an app without getting into examples, but you try to find somebody that's in a similar kind of business as you and see if there's a case study. And oftentimes you can contact their sales team at a software company and find out if somebody's using their app like you, or if they're in a business like you. Testimonials are great, video testimonials. Actually, sometimes you'll find where customers are so happy about a software program, they're willing to give a live testimonial, or recorded testimonial rather than just writing something. Trial version, this is huge. Just about all the apps give you a trial version. So don't purchase anything until you can, so maybe try it before you buy it, you might look at. So note too, what does it cost if you purchase it? A lot of these apps that, I guess probably on the average, the apps that I use, I pay for, they're $5 a month. So it's not that much. Sometimes you can save a little money paying for a whole year in advance. So a fit to your needs, this is probably the most crucial. A lot of people, you can select a software through the trial version and see if it has the features and functions you're wanting, but it's good to write down or document what you're looking for, how you want transactions to be handled or activities. If you've got a team, try to get a team of people that are all going to be using it. Like if you've got a support team, make sure you get everybody's input to find that right software. So documenting your needs, finding something that fits those needs the best you can. So when you look at any app before you purchase or make a selection, look at flexibility. Try to avoid customization. I mentioned that earlier, that back when I was in the software business, we had to do a lot of customization for our larger clients. Now, a lot of times you'll see there's features you turn on and turn off, and there's integration tools. One's called Zapier. I'm not going to talk about today, but basically a fairly technical person can just go in and make Zapier add functionality to an app where you're taking one app that wasn't meant to work with another one and integrate it or connect it to another app. For example, credit card processing. Maybe I want to be able to take a credit card payment before I support somebody through an email. Or maybe I want to put it in my signature of my email. If somebody wants to schedule my time, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, is to be able to actually, sorry, getting these pop-ups on my computer. So basically, you want to be able to integrate functionality, another app, to a place where you might use it on an ongoing basis. Scalability, you probably heard that term. Basically what that means is, will it grow with you? Does it grow with your business? And not just size-wise, but requirements. Will it grow? Because a lot of times there's more advanced apps, or I'm sorry, more advanced versions of software that allow you to take on additional feature sets. I won't get into this now, but basically any good program is going to give probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 levels of their product. I know even QuickBooks does that. So here's some resources. And again, you're going to have access to these later, so you don't have to jot them down, but softwareadvice.com is a good one. Capterra, G2 Crowd, AppSumo. AppSumo is actually a subscription. You pay $99 and get access to new release products where they're looking for, to a degree, trying to get the public to be kind of a beta tester. So you might get what would be a lifetime use to a software for $50 that if you bought it when it gets full release and fully developed would be maybe thousands of dollars. So if you're willing to take a chance, if it's not mission critical in your business, that's probably not a bad idea. Some really good graphic apps, and if you like to do graphics and edit pictures and do creative stuff like for your website and social media. The other one, this is a big one, YouTube. Google owns YouTube. So out on YouTube, there's literally, I couldn't even tell you a number, but there's reviews of software, independent reviews. There's training that's provided by, like I said earlier, the actual software vendor or users. There's demos of software. So it's a great place to go. And there'd be kind of shootouts, if you will. Somebody will compare 2 products that are similar, and you can get a comparison side by side, and they'll tell you the pros and cons because maybe they've used it or trained or implemented it for their customers. So time for our poll number 3. Okay, what is your current system challenge? Applications not meeting needs, how to use them properly, how to find the best options. Boy, that one got jumped up there, didn't it? Be interesting to know what the other is. There's I'm glad to see this actually, how to find the best options. And hopefully today, if you get nothing out of this presentation, but to see maybe a way you can find and choose the right software for you. And those are great sources I just told you. So it looks like hopefully that will help a lot of the people that have swayed or made had that as their greatest concern. Okay. Okay, we're going to talk about collaboration platform. This is not the same as what we were talking about earlier with Microsoft and Google. The collaboration platform, think of it as kind of like an office arrangement, a platform, a place where you go to do work with others. A virtual workspace is a term that's used. So basically, and there's several of them out there. We'll talk about my favorite, Slack. But in that virtual workspace environment, you're able to collaborate, share, maybe give opinions, have input about a presentation, but everything's in one place. So you can use various software tools and apps within this workspace. So Slack is what I like, and we'll talk about Trello, but you're familiar with the Google platform. So these can all work together. So Slack is one of my favorite ones. And there's so many ways you can use this. So it's called a collaboration platform. There is a free version. And I want to be honest with you, I've been using this for about 4 years. I'm still using the free version. And because probably my needs aren't as great as some of you others that have large teams you work with. I don't have a large team other than clients I work with, or maybe a vendor or somebody outside that we're collaborating with. But it's platform and device independent. So if you're a Mac user, you can work with an Android. If you're a Microsoft or Google, it doesn't matter. You can all work together. And Microsoft has something called Microsoft Teams. That hasn't been out too long, but it's supposed to be a strong competitor to Slack. So what is Slack? It's channel-based. So imagine a platform or a virtual workspace rather, and you have channels. A channel is maybe a subject, maybe it's a certain project, an internal project, something you're doing for a client or with somebody on the outside. What's neat about this environment, this workspace that you're creating, is that it's for a certain, like I said, a certain project. Like I've got one right now, I'm working with someone outside on a website project where there's a workspace for that website project. So you can have channels, or discussion points within a workspace. And then like, for example, I've got here, create for a project, a team, a topic, maybe it's a product launch, the website example. So what's really, this is a pretty bold statement, but it's true. Here's the big advantage of this workspace. Think of it this way. In a typical work environment, when you're working with customers or teams, you email people, you text people, you send instant messages. So these things are like all over the place. So to find those and try to bring them to one place where you can share them where need or refer back to them, it just doesn't happen. So that's the beauty of Slack. You can have your messaging, your emails, anything to do with that channel, that project, that point of focus, all the messaging that relates to that is in one place. And you can have threads. So if you're messaging back and forth about a question somebody has, you can create threads, kind of like email or texting. So it's a great tool. I've been using, I'll tell you one way I use it too, is when I work with a client, I create a Slack channel so that all of our communication is done and found in one place. So if I'm sending them a document, maybe a link to something they need to do some research on, or see that I'm responding to something where they asked a question, it's in one place. So it's there forever. And and what I like about it too, it kind of gives my clients 24/7 access to me. So if on a weekend, they've got a question and we're working on a particular project and they've got a question or sending me a response to something, it's in that Slack channel. And you can set reminders. It'll pop up and tell you that somebody has sent you a message, so you can pop into it just like you'd get a text message. It goes straight to Slack. Pretty awesome product. If you get a chance to go out to YouTube and just look up Slack, there's some good overviews of the product. So here's another favorite, Trello. Trello is a planning and organizing tool. Think of Trello kind of like a storyboard, a linear progression of steps you go through to accomplish something. This is, and then there is a free version of this. Again, it's everything I'm talking to you about. There's a free version and it's platform independent. It doesn't care about what kind of phone you use or computer or Microsoft or Google. It compares to Asana and Monday. Monday hasn't been out as long. A lot of people love Monday. So here's a picture of that. You can have the same desktop show up on your phone, same access. So what is it? So again, it's like a storyboard. You can organize, communicate, assign, set due dates. You can, here's some examples here, create a project, an idea, a book, a course, a website. I'm using this to lay out the components of a website that I'm doing with a third party, with an outside firm. Marketing campaigns, launching a new product. Maybe there's an event you're putting together. There's so many ways you can do this. It's so free form and it's so easy to use too. I know Michelle says they use Trello at the BBB. So basically the hierarchy of this is you have a board. A board might be, let's say, a course you're creating. And then under that, you would have lists. This is kind of going across, if I had a whiteboard where I could point this out, but basically a list is your highest, within the board, your highest hierarchy. So within a list, you have cards. That's the lowest level. So you can take these cards and drag them to another list if you change the stage or the step where this particular item would exist. Hopefully that made sense. Here's another favorite. I love Evernote. Evernote I've been using for quite some time. For a long time, I used the free version. I really like the paid for version. It has some features that I enjoy. The beauty of Evernote, there's so many ways to describe this, but it's kind of like a file cabinet or a digital organizer, accessible from any device. So it's you can take notes, you can scan documents, you can take pictures, you can take somebody's business card, scan it, creates a note, updates a contact record. I've got a picture of a guy looking at a file cam. The old-fashioned way is to pop your head into a file and start sorting, looking for something. Hopefully it's there. And then to address that, there's something called full text search. So if you've got a PDF or Word document that's part of a note, that note, you can do a full text search and find all the PDFs throughout your Evernote files that address that certain item. Like maybe it's somebody's name or a project name. Maybe you're looking at something by date. So you can share your notes and notebooks. And let me kind of digress just a bit. Notes are the lowest level. I'm sorry, notes are the lowest level. Notebooks are the highest level. And a lot of people don't even use notebooks because you can have so many notebooks that it creates a lot of information to sort through. And I'll give you an example of this, a great example of how this works. But another thing too is Web Clipper. If you're one that does a lot of research on, take any topic, you're on the web, you're searching something, Web Clipper is a plugin for your web browser. You just simply, when you're on that page, you can clip it and it saves it, it creates a note. Incredible feature. I use this all the time. When I'm doing research for a client, we're looking at a certain topic, I'll go out there and do research and find these and clip them and then share that notebook. I'll also put it in Slack because this integrates with Slack. But so the Web Clipper is kind of like using bookmarks when you're in a browser, but a lot more powerful. I'll give you a real life example. A client I worked with for quite a while. They're a construction company, about a $20 million contractor. and their superintendents would drive around to job sites all over a 4-state area. And they'd have these banker boxes in the back seat of their F-250 truck. And invariably, what they were looking for wasn't there or is outdated. So to get what they wanted, they'd typically be out of town at a hotel or something, that they have to get somebody to typically fax them something, or, and that's not always handy. You could email somebody a document, but it's kind of hard to, a lot of times it's just kind of hard to deal with that. So just think of a electronic file cabinet in the sky, that you have a notebook for a job. And then what they would do is create multiple notes for different topics related to that job. It might be change orders for those who have been in the construction area. It's a common term when there's a change to a project. If you want to document a construction project as things progress, you can simply, from Evernote, take a picture of it. It updates that to that job file. So there's a picture right-hand side, digital documentation, shows a picture of somebody taking a picture of part of a project. Just imagine if you're in that space, being able to document because I know in the construction space, you have to back up what you're billing a client for, or just to show progress. So it's a great way to organize, and you could share that file, that notebook, with your customer in that event. Powerful tool. So now we're ready for poll question number 4. Okay, which of the following do you use? Slack, Microsoft Teams, Asana, Trello, Evernote? Does anybody use any of these? A lot of people use Trello, Teams, okay. Nobody uses Slack, I'm surprised. Evernote, great. A little surprised there's nobody using Slack. I think I'm using it primarily because I know it and I've been using it for a while, and Teams has come out afterwards. That's one product I have not used. So none of the above. Hopefully you saw something here, those who marked none of the above, that you can use in your job, in your work environment. Okay. Okay, this is, I don't own one of these, but I know I've recommended it. I know a lot of people that do. This has been out a couple of years. I know everybody has, or typically everybody has a scanner or the ability to scan a document, so you can email it. This is the slickest tool. If you want to be paperless, this is absolutely the best tool to use. It's about 650 bucks. You can catch them on sale on the internet, but here's a picture of one. So when you set this thing to your desktop, it can be wireless also, it can be shared. So you can scan any document, pictures, invoices, business cards, handwritten notes from a meeting, and there's these large buttons on the top you can pre-program to say, when I scan something, take it to Evernote, or send it to Dropbox, or Box, or Google Drive, or maybe I just want to email it. So you scan it, rather than what we typically do now. It takes a few steps and you end up losing where did I put this scanned document. So you can scan it directly to your email, send it to somebody in one step. You can also put it on your thumb drive, and it scans really fast, 60 pages a minute, which is pretty fast. So imagine trying to do that with efficiency, especially if you have volume, to do that with a desktop flatbed scanner. Great tool. Okay, time for another poll question. This is the last one here. So how do you train your teams? So how do you train your teams or customers? Do you have something that's digital that they can go to and see and access? Or do you do everything face to face? Okay. A lot of people do both. Few do digital. That's kind of what I expected. Yeah. So I think we're all used to face-to-face. For years, that's been our mechanism to train. Hopefully today I'm going to introduce something to you that you'll be able to embrace to make this very efficient. Okay, good. Thanks for the feedback. Okay, I use something called Thinkific. This is a LMS, or learning management system. It's web-based, again, in the cloud. There is a free version. A free version probably will work for most small businesses. There's a lot of tools out there like it. Teachable is another popular one. Udemy is another one, except it's more, Udemy is a great place to go learn a skill or a trade, because they've got online courses for like 15 bucks. So what is Thinkific? It's, again, a learning management system. It's a way to standardize your training so there's consistency. It saves printing out training manuals and the like. If there's an update to a training course, it's real easy to change it. So adapting or editing or changing content when it's in the cloud, you just pull out maybe there's a download PDF, you pull it out, substitute it, or maybe you want to update a video recording. We'll talk about that in a second. But basically create online courses, not just for internal and external. So courses, the hierarchy in Thinkific, you create a course has chapters, and chapters have content. So content can be things like videos, voiceover recordings, a PDF download. It can be text, something where you're just typing out the information for someone to read when they're taking the course. It can be hyperlinks. I do a lot of my courses with a hyperlink to YouTube, where there's a video that they can link to, and without getting out of the course, is watch it and move on. You can do quizzes. You can do certifications. So if you've got customers, you want them to be certified on your particular product or service, you can actually give them a certificate for completion. So it's a great, it's platform independent. They can watch your courses on their phone, desktop, just like all the other apps. Great tool. I've seen a lot of clients that I recommend this now, because with the way we work now, people working remotely, matter of fact, I've talked to people that have team members they've never even physically met, but they're working for them on in a project environment. And so they want to train these people in their procedures. Very important to train or onboard people. Operative term is onboarding, is to be able to train those people in a structured format so everybody gets the same training. It's a great way to do and to roll out your training. So here's some examples. Again, training and onboarding employees, skill building for teams, selling information, learning products. That's one thing I do. I'm taking a lot of my coaching consulting to an online basis. Training customers. I think it's great to train customers, depending on what your product is, to train them so that they can be more proficient. You're going to have happier customers if you actually train them in a structured environment. Instead of handing them a manual, you could actually have videos showing them how to use your products. So here's a tool I've been using for a number of years. I bet hardly anybody's heard of this, and hopefully you have. This is probably the easiest, most powerful tool to record information. Now, I used the screencast, the videos I create on all of my online courses. So you can do voiceover, like I could take this PowerPoint presentation and do a voiceover and explain it just like I am with you guys today. This is a new feature they just added. You can take a Zoom webinar or presentation like this, bring it into screencast and edit it, cut out pieces that aren't relevant, or maybe where there's something, maybe some part you didn't want to have part of your video. And so it's compared to, maybe you've heard of these, Camtasia, Adobe Premiere Pro, Loom, and ScreenFlow. Some of these are Apple-based. This is, it's a great product. It's platform independent. There is a free version. Matter of fact, for a number of years, I used the free version. I use the paid-for version now because it's got some cloud storage and editing features that I use. But I think it's a whole, like 60 bucks a year, maybe. So if you're a power user, it'd be good to have the paid-for version. So what is it? So you create, edit for internal or external use. You can record all of your screen, part of your screen. You can record just from the webcam without any screen. You can do both. Like you're probably seeing me in a little window here on the screen. That's a combo version. That's an option. So you can take a screenshot of something really important, take a picture of it, creates a file, email it to somebody, store it, share it, stores it to Google Drive. You can automatically create a YouTube video from screencast, automatically just updates to your account for YouTube. Great for explainer videos. I use this a lot for clients when we're going over something fairly complicated. Maybe it's something we talked about, but we're not together. So I would do a recording of this particular or specific topic, create an explainer video and submit that to them. So there's so many uses of this. Use the free version. I promise you, most of you can get by with the free version, but it's a great way and it's so easy to use. That's what I love. Also, too, I failed to mention that you can have green screen backgrounds. Zoom does that as well. So I'd love to be asking questions right now. All right, so you'd probably be surprised I put this down here, but Google Calendar, to me, and I know people that are Microsoft users, and I used to be one. I would use the Outlook environment, but Google Calendar, if everything we talked about today, if I didn't have any of these tools, because time is our most valuable asset, I would say Google Calendar would be the one tool that I'd want. I can organize my time, set up my tasks, my to-dos, remind myself, confirm appointments. There's so many things you can do. And there's all these third-party apps that a lot of people aren't aware of that enhance Google Calendar. So Google Calendar, to me, I'd probably say second would be email. The tools you got to have. If you're going to master any, you got to master those to be more proficient. So the next one, Google has something called Task. I used it for a while, but it just didn't do it for me. Todoist has been out for a number of years. There's a free version that's incredible. Todoist is Google Task on steroids. Todoist allows you to share, it allows you to create simple projects, keep notes, add attachments. I could be in Google, or I'm sorry, in Gmail, and have an email that basically what I need to do is create a task so I can set up a task in Todoist from that email that came from, say, a customer. So it's an incredibly powerful tool. It can be used with Outlook as well. So highly recommend this. It's the free version. Again, probably be everything you need. I use the paid for version because it has a few features that I really like. And you see a picture of a smartwatch down here. You can have these reminders pop up on your smartwatch. So basically, think of it as a centralized productivity hub. It's not like Slack, although this does integrate with Slack. So if you're a power user that loves to keep track of notes and to-dos, and this is such an important part of your life, highly recommend Todoist. Again, I said I had the paid for version. I think it's like $50 a year. It's not much at all. So here's another one. So if you deal with outsiders, customers, clients, team members, and you have meetings and you want people to have the ability to have access to your calendar to set an appointment, there's a few of these apps out there, Doodle, Acuity, and Acuity Scheduling. But basically what it is, it's a method to, excuse me, for people to ask for some of your time. You just has a little, enter your name and your email, pick a time, it brings up your calendar, they see it, they pick the time slot, you can confirm it. You could schedule a Zoom meeting, a phone call, a face-to-face meeting. This tool right here, I think is great to put on your email signature, especially if you deal with clients, if you're in a professional services environment. It's great to put on your social media platforms. They can schedule you from your Facebook page or your LinkedIn page. You can put it on your website. I've actually got it on my website so people can schedule my time. A great tool, the free version, again, probably works for most everybody. It's a great, great tool. Highly, highly recommend it to be more productive, especially in this, again, this place where we're all work separate from the people we see. We want to get a piece of their time to have a discussion. Okay, here's something I've been using for, I think I've been using this about 4 years. If you use the G Suite, or Google Workspace, so I used to call it G Suite, uh, it can turn your Google Workspace into a CRM, full-blown CRM. So basically what it does, your contact records, uh, you can use that as the hub, if you will, to all the functionality where you're tracking and communicating with customers, vendors, team members, keep track of notes, keep track of emails. One thing I like about it, if I send somebody an email, I want to make sure they got it because I've got it plugged into my Chrome browser. And hopefully everybody knows what that is. It's like Internet Explorer. So I can automatically uh, enter all of my notes and my contacts, oh, I know what I was going to say, sorry. It will tell me if somebody's opened my email. That's where I was headed with that. How many times have you sent somebody an email and they said, I never got your email? Sorry, you did. So I've had people tell me that. And I think it's either they're busy or they forgot. So I can say, well, I sent you an email last Tuesday. You saw it. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to read it. But it's great. You can catch people, especially if you use salespeople, your customers saying they're not seeing your emails. Maybe they're trying to avoid you. But anyway, so it can take documents that are in your Google Drive, share them in your emails, document that you sent them a certain file in the customer record. You can create projects, all kinds of things. I'll cover a few of these here. So you can create projects. You create the pipeline or the what is it, a Gantt chart. It'll track reminders, populate your calendar. You can create contact notes. You can manage your pipeline. You can move people through the sales process. I'm just throwing out highlights here. You can see most of that's down at the bottom. It is very flexible. You can create user-defined fields, calculated fields. Like, let's say I want to know how long it's been since I talked to a customer. I can create a calculated field that will tell the last time I sent an email or logged a phone call. Great tool. One of the early, when I first started using this about 3 or 4 years ago, it was about 4 years ago, I had a nonprofit I was working with here in Tyler, and they were looking at hiring somebody. And so I was working with them, documenting what they needed and how they might train that person and so forth. And basically they were needing somebody to help manage their donor base. And so what we did, we brought Streak in and set it up to do some automation with contacting and touching the various donors. What it did, there's two great things that happened with this. What it did, it eliminated the need to hire that extra person. To this day, to my knowledge, I don't think they've hired anybody. And this is 4 years ago, and we talked about this. So it's just a great tool. And another thing I found out was that because they were a nonprofit, Streak gave them a free copy of their product. I think it's like $40 a month, which is cheap for all this functionality. If you do fund support and support customers, you can track support logs and support activities within Streak. If you're hiring people, you can log all the activities, the resumes, the back and forth with hiring somebody. You can create checklists, things you go through and questions of new hires. If you're in the real estate business and you want to track the progress of working with a particular customer, and maybe you want to keep track of all the properties you've shown. Now, a lot of real estate companies have their own systems, but what's great is you can really tailor it to the way you work. If you're a boutique type real estate agent, you want a lot of really strong touch and feel with your customers. It's a great way to manage those relationships. Okay, this looks busy here, but just kind of go with me for a minute. What's happened with social media? And I'm pretty opinionated about this, so bear with me. Social media, because they control who sees and how much they see in that space. That's not a political statement. It's just a fact. They want you to pay to play. So to pay to play means that you got to buy Google ads or LinkedIn advertisement. And so think of, and for years I've known this, but I never ever put a lot of emphasis into it. So recently is that social media is a place to make connections, to be found, to create social proof, right? So email. So what you want to do is, however you're engaging with people in social media, you should be getting them onto your email list. And there's some tools here. Got here, ConvertKit, which is what I use, and MailChimp. There are free versions. MailChimp's a little less expensive. ConvertKit's more robust. So basically, kind of going back to the thought process here, you create your relationships on social media. You give them something that they can use, and you trade them their name and email. It goes into an email list. When they're on your email list, social media cannot control, they can't dictate how you communicate with your customers. I would rather have 500 engaged people that I work with on my email list than 5,000 people in my social media platform saying they like something I posted. So it's kind of pointless to just get likes if it's not going to turn into business. So if there's a concept, it's not just the tools here, I'm talking the concept. There's a lot of email marketing, EMS systems, email marketing systems out there, but I like ConvertKit. It's 29 bucks a month. It's not cheap, but it's incredibly powerful. You can do your, if you're sending newsletters out to clients, if you want to set up scheduled follow-ups with clients or anyone, it's a great way, a great tool. You can do a lot of that in MailChimp too, I might add. Here's something that I'm surprised this hasn't come to become a standard in lots of businesses. I know Brookshire uses this. Mobile marketing, SMS, text messaging is what we're used to. This is a step above. This actually you create intelligence in your marketing and engagement with your customers. So Slick Text is one I've used for a long time. There's a bunch of competitors. There's a free version of that. Twilio is a little more high-end for a larger environment. This is a great tool. That might be something like a Brookshire's would use, where they're sending out advertisement to people that signed up on their I call it the frequent flyer club. But basically you can create occasional send outs to be on a cell phone, on a mobile device, of their particular ad, or maybe they've got some intelligence built into, here's somebody that likes fish products and they've got a sale on salmon. You can create a lot of intelligence in Twilio. It's a little more high end, but point is that if you're not engaging with your clients with mobile marketing, you're missing out. Another example, my son owns an auto glass shop, and to be able to engage with people to remind them of an appointment, maybe they're given a free inspection on checking for rock chip repairs just to make sure there's no cracks and so forth. Could be anything. Just think of your customers and sending a text. At a company I worked with recently, that their service person, I got a text from them saying, your service person is on their way. That was great because I'm so used to hoping they'll show up. Well, they text me back, so they'll be running 15 minutes late. To give that kind of service to your customers, to engage with them, texting, it raises the bar on your credibility and the engagement with your customers in that regard. So I highly recommend looking at, and again, there's a number of these. Slick Text is one I like, it's so easy. And I think even on the paid for version, it's not more than $10 a month. So hopefully that gave you some little insight to how you might look at social media and the platforms and building your list. And I know there's some phone systems too that work with mobile marketing in their platforms where you can also send text from your desktop.
Okay, great, Keith. And I know you have one more slide with some information on how to contact you. So you want to go ahead and get to that slide, and then I want to make sure there were a couple of questions I want to make sure we get answered because we're a little bit over time now.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So what I've done, I'm in the process of building this course right now. I'm gonna be adding to it probably for many months. I've had so many people want to know what software I recommend. If you email me, coach@makenewrules.com, subject power tools, you can put a question in there, but and also too, I will email you a link to my online course. This is free. Also, today's presentation is there, so don't worry about if you miss something because I may have covered it too fast. So I'll be doing reviews, links to reviews, some demos, best practices, how you use some of these software tools. So So don't worry about if you missed something today. I'll be adding much more than we covered today over time. I just launched this last week. It's kind of early stages, so there'll be a lot added. So that's,
Okay.
this is the last slide. I'll take some questions, Michelle.
Great. There were a couple of questions. There we go. There were a couple of questions. One of them was, does Trello only work with the Google platform?
No, it works with Microsoft as well. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear.
No, that's good. That's good. A lot of them look like they were incorporated with Google, but weren't sure. I wasn't sure if they also incorporated with other platforms. So it looks like they might just have to do a little research.
Michelle, probably Streak is the only one that's more of a Google platform, a major tool that I talked about.
Great. The second question, which you did cover Streak as a good CMS, is there another one that also incorporates, maybe one that incorporates with Microsoft, since Streak seems to work better with Google?
Yeah, I know Copper is one. That's one that I kind of briefly mentioned. I know my background is actually the Microsoft world. Microsoft does have their own CRMs called Microsoft Dynamics. It's a full-blown CRM. I know they're offering that on a subscription base. Very, very flexible. So Microsoft Dynamics, just go to Microsoft and look up Dynamics, and it's a full-blown CRM. I probably recommend that over Copper.
That's awesome, Keith. I know that I took several notes on things that we could probably incorporate into what we're doing here in our offices and even personally. So I'm hoping that other people also were able to get some good takeaways. So thank you for sharing that information. We will be sharing your information with everybody in a follow-up email, along with a link to our YouTube channel, so they can rewatch some of this if they would like to, along with your slides. So they'll get a copy of that and a link to your email, and so they can subscribe to your videos that you're producing. And also just wanted to remind everybody that we do have another webinar coming up, hosted by BBB of Middle Tennessee on December 10th, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. If I don't have a link tomorrow, I will send that link to everybody who registered as soon as we do have it. However, I do hope that we have it tomorrow, and I can just send it with the email that's scheduled to go out to you guys tomorrow. Let me check the chat box one more time. And no further questions. So with that, we will sign off, and we thank you guys for being with us today, and we'll see you next time.
Email me with your questions if you have.
Bye-bye.